vacation to the Carriker Chronicles, and ladies and gentlemen, it does not get any more real or raw than the show that is the Carriker Chronicles. We are literally on vacation in the mountains, getting ready to hit the slopes in our hotel room, and here I am doing a show for you folks at home. I love doing it. It's going to be fun. I got my three fierce offensive linemen here to help me. Got Addison Carriker, Trinity Carriker, fix the hat, and Jacob Carriker. Love his hat even better. Going to talk about the differences between the 3-4 defense and the 4-3 defense. And I got some notes here because I wanted to be a little bit prepared for this. It's real and raw, but got to be a little bit prepared. I talked about being cautiously optimistic in the previous show. And I'll tell you why a little bit more in depth, because I like the hire of our new defensive coordinator. The guy did great at Notre Dame, had great defenses, had great success. I like the 4-3 scheme. Schematically, if I had to choose between the 3-4 and the 4-3, I would pick the 3-4. I know several NFL coaches, which is where I ran it, so that's what I'll refer to. Several NFL coaches who, on offense, who do not like the 3-4 defense going against it. It's so much harder to game plan against. It's so much harder to read and recognize. It's hard to decipher what's going on. So if we're in a 4-3, this is my fierce center, my guard, and my tackle. So if we're in a 4-3, you've got a defensive end out here. You've got a 3 technique. If the strength of the offensive formation is over here, here's your 3 technique. And here's your nose guard, and you've got your other defensive end over here. So what happens is as the quarterback walks up to the line of scrimmage, he immediately knows where the strength of the defense is. There's the 3 technique, there's your strong end, you got your nose guard here, boom. I know whether they're a weak side blitz defense, a strong side blitz defense, what their tendencies are. I immediately know where the strength of the defense is, and the offense has some advantages with that. Now, the 4-3 defense certainly has some advantages as well, especially if you can get some athletic guys on the field. There's been a lot of teams with success with that. But when you have the 3-4 defense, what happens is I'm head up the tackle as a defensive end. I'm head up the center as the nose guard. And the other defensive end is head up the other offensive tackle. So the quarterback walks up to the line of scrimmage, everything looks the same. It could be on the right hash, the left hash, goal line. Well, goal line is different, but in the red zone, the 50-yard line, everything looks the same. It is so much harder to decipher, so much more cerebral. You can disguise things, you can blitz from everywhere, and it's so much harder to figure out what's going on. So that's why a lot of the offensive coaches don't like the 3-4 scheme, and I like it, because you can disguise what you're doing, and it's very difficult to figure out what's going on, and you confuse people very easily, especially younger quarterbacks. Now, there's a lot of different 4-3s and 3-4 schemes. There are certain 4-3 schemes where you're not just flying off the ball. You're taking a short 6-inch step as you come off the ball because you got to guard against the run. Now, in Mark Banker's defense that he ran, that was not the case. And I played in a defense like this. I played in the other style of 4-3 defense as well. The Mark Banker defense was attack and then react. So he wanted this big, long first step. And you are playing the run on the way to the quarterback. You're going to give up some big plays because you're attacking, but you're also going to cause some tackles for loss, get a lot more sacks. It's a lot more aggressive style of defense. So that's the style of defense he ran. Now there's different 3-4s as well. You can also be a little bit more of an attacking 3-4. You can line up in the gaps. You can do things of that nature. But that is not what our new defensive coordinator likes to do. And he's kind of from the Bill Belichick coaching tree, if you will. And that's not really what Bill Belichick likes to do. He likes to line up head up, the tackle, guard, and center with the nose guard and 2 ends. And so you are literally doing the exact opposite. You cannot have 2 more defenses on God's green earth than the attack and react defense and this 3-4 defense, which is read and react. So instead of flying off the ball as soon as it's hiked, like in the Mark Banker defense, you barely even watch the ball. You're watching the offensive lineman. Take a step that way, Jacob. I'm literally going lateral. Take a step that way. That is what they're taught to do. Instead of flying off the ball upfield, you are literally taught to move laterally. Because you're not trying to necessarily create a bunch of plays in the background, in the backfield for loss or sacks and things of that nature. It is a no crease, don't give up big plays type of defense. Up front, you're eating up blocks, taking off double teams, and the linebackers are free in the back end to roam around and make a bunch of plays. I'll never forget when I got to Washington, D.C. I played football for, going back to middle school, 16 years, 17 years at that point. The first day we were there, first time I'd ever played a 3-4 defense. we were doing drills I'd never seen before in my entire life. I'd never in my entire life seen the ball hiked, and I was supposed to do this based on the offensive line. It was something I'd never seen. Phil Daniels, a 15-year vet, had never seen. But you look at the Steelers, you look at the Patriots, you look at some of the best defenses in the league, and it's what they do. You have these space eaters that eat up these offensive linemen, because if I'm creasing here, I can't take up two. Can you take a step this way, sweetie? Take a step, and you come this way. Now, if I'm lateral and I engage him, and he's trying to block me, I've now taken up two. There's now a linebacker free to make plays. So that's why this defense is successful. And the attack and react defense has its pluses and minuses as well. Now, I like the 3-4 as far as Nebraska goes, because you don't need, there's only so many highly recruited 3 techniques and elite inside pass rushers in the country. And I love Nebraska, but there are certain challenges to recruiting there, all right? And so along the defensive front, oh, drop the hat. Along the defensive front, you need some big boys who are unselfish, who are willing to be the fullback of the offensive line of the defense, who are willing to eat up blocks and let everyone else make most of the tackles. The defensive line is not going to make a bunch of sacks, tackles for loss. It's just not the way it is. It's the outside linebackers and the middle linebackers that are going to get most of the stats. So you need a big war daddy in the middle. You need a big Vince Wilfork in the middle. And then you need some unselfish big boys who can move quickly in tight windows at the defensive end spot. Now, as far as the linebackers, these guys are kind of a hybrid. As far as recruiting, it makes it easier as well. Because you can take, if you want more of a pass rushing guy in a particular defense, you can take a big high school safety and move him down here, and he's got speed off the edge, and then he can cover. Because depending on if it's a ripple strong right, strong left call for the defense, maybe the right, left outside linebacker's dropping, maybe the left one's dropping. Sometimes they're called dog and cat, the right and left outside linebacker. So you got to be able to rush the passer, you got to be able to drop into coverage. So you can take a middle linebacker, put him out there from high school to college. You could take a defensive end, a guy who's really good at rushing the quarterback, and stand him up and know that if you put him to a certain side of the defense, he's going to rush the quarterback most of the time. So it gives you more options of guys to put at the defensive end position or the outside linebacker position and rush the quarterback. Your middle linebacker, he's calling the plays, and basically, if I'm right here and I'm the nose and I'm eating this double team and this defensive end's eating the double team here, if there's a tight end, so nose is taking those two, he's taking those two, the linebacker's free to make plays. So the middle linebacker has to be able to cover the underneath zone and be able to read and react real quick to the A and B gaps and what's open. As far as the secondary, not a whole lot changes. The back four is still the back four. I know in our new defensive coordinator scheme, he has a boundary corner and a field corner. So the field corner is technically a little bit better in coverage because there's more space. The boundary corner is a little bit more physical. So what ends up happening, since there's more space, the field corner tends to get more help from the safety because there's a lot more space out there, a lot more room for big plays. So the boundary corner sometimes can almost appear like he's on an island. You can counter that with various things. Part of that is I know he likes to run cover 2, cover 3, a lot of the zones, so that can help that boundary corner out as well. Your defensive linemen also have to be able to play hybrid 4-3s. If you're playing a spread offense, 3-4 is not the best defense. So your defensive end has to be able to come down and now play a little bit of 3 technique. Your outside linebacker has to be able to come down, play a little bit of defensive end if you're playing more of a spread offense. You got to have that hybrid. In a nickel situation, it's very simple what happens. You take your big 350 war daddy nose guard out of the game. Your defensive ends now move inside, and they can be in the A gap, they can be in the B gap, in the 3 technique. Your linebackers now put their hand on the dirt, and you've got speed on the field. Because you're taking the big guy off the field, you brought an extra quarterback in. Perfect for goal line short yardage, this defense is, because you got a whole bunch of big bodies as it is. Now, this week, going into our regular schedule, Monday, Wednesday, I'm going to try out a Fast Friday. Check out what that is this Friday. So Monday, Wednesday, and Fast Fridays. So ladies and gentlemen, Husker Nation, until Wednesday, go Big Red, and always remember, we're raising them right.